From the Barbados Today newsroom, this is your evening news update for Friday, June 25. The International Business Unit is investigating a report that places a Barbados-registered offshore company at the center of an alleged multi-million-dollar international crime ring. International Business Minister Ronald Topping, however, revealed that in the absence of an overseas conviction, it will be difficult to take any significant action. A Canadian Broadcasting Corporation article published earlier this month identified Hyuna International, which operates from Hastings, Christchurch, as being allegedly involved in a scheme that uses a network of streaming websites to scam thousands of internet users.
Our information does not tell us that there's any conviction at this stage. So right now it's really just an investigative report that has been carried out by the investigation and a report on something. So we're not aware. So we at this stage we have not taken any action, but it is actively before us.
Minister Topping is, however, not convinced that the developments will significantly affect the country's standing as a destination for legitimate offshore businesses.
I would really be shocked to think that a statement by an investigative journalist or whoever that is up to now unsubstantiated in terms of being proofs in a court. I don't see how on earth that would affect the jurisdiction's reputation. If it is that the person is convicted and found to be guilty of wrongdoing, of course, I think if the jurisdiction then fails to take action, of course, then you would open yourself up to negative review. Right. But certainly at this stage, I can't see how a statement based on an investigation, unsubstantiated, unproved up to this point, should really or could really damage the country's reputation.
Government and independent senators today declared that small countries such as Barbados must unite with their counterparts and state their case to the club of the world's richest nations whose decisions have adversely affected international business here. As the Upper House debated the company's Economic Substance Amendment Bill, the senators zeroed in on the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and other organizations for bullying smaller and poorer nations they accuse of being uncooperative tax havens.
Sometimes to play in a global economic playground, we have to observe the rules, even when we are not part of making them.
Countries like Barbados have a remedy where we can go to the International Court of Justice and argue our points against this unfair taxation rates that is being imposed upon us. But the thing about countries like Barbados, who really have no clout on the international arena going to the ICJ, is that the big countries don't have to obey what they have to say. The results, if they rule in our favor, they do not have to obey what they have to do.
Senator Rawdon Adams acknowledged the situation is frustrating, but he suggested that Barbados will benefit from the continued legislative changes.
We're only victims here and trodden upon if we choose to be. We can choose how we respond to this, and we can gripe and we can groan, but we have to choose to respond positively, look at what they've sent back to us, and triangulate our way through it successfully as we've done before. We can do it again. And we're doing it today, albeit on a single change that, the response if we don't do it is entirely out of order.
Cabinet has approved a plan to top up the Unemployment Fund with some $143 million to ensure it can continue to pay its benefits. Word of this from Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strawn, who said the plan was accepted on Thursday and involves discussions with the National Insurance Board. He explained the Unemployment Fund had to borrow money from the National Insurance Fund to pay out a large number of claims that were made because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking after the launch of the Clean and Green program at Kingston Drive, Kingston, Christchurch, Strawn noted that while $143 million is a lot of money, the fund paid out $155 million last year. This compared to an average year where it earned roughly $50 million and pays out about $37 million. Minister Strawn said government is hopeful that more Barbadians will return to work as soon as possible. He noted that about 11,000 unemployment claims have been made because of the lockdown earlier this year. However, they were significantly less than last year's numbers. In today's COVID-19 update, a student at the Princess Margaret School has tested positive for the viral illness, the principal confirmed in an internal memo. It comes as health authorities report 9 new cases of the virus, 2 men and 7 women. They were identified out of 756 tests conducted by the Barbados Santos Public Health Laboratory on Thursday. There are now 25 people in isolation. Barbados has recorded 4,066 cases of the viral illness and 47 deaths since March 2020. The Public Health Laboratory has carried out 182,547 tests to date. As it relates to the national vaccination program for COVID-19, 93,941 doses have been administered, while 68,417 persons are now fully vaccinated, having received their second doses.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Regional news: Trinidad and Tobago's Health Minister Terence Dial Singh is strongly defending the management of the country's COVID-19 pandemic fight. Speaking during a no-confidence motion brought against him by the opposition, Dial Singh said he and his medical team helped to save hundreds of lives. More in this report from TTT News.
Our timeline will show that we took 220 individual measures from January 29, 2020, when we started thermal screening, up to June 19, 2021, all in an effort to save lives. And we have always believed in the science and the evidence. But the UNC litigated everything at every turn.
On the international scene, a Minnesota judge sentenced former police officer Derek Chauvin to 22.5 years in prison on Friday for the murder of George Floyd during an arrest in May 2020 on a Minneapolis sidewalk.
I'm not going to attempt to be profound or clever because it's not the appropriate time. I'm not basing my sentence also on public opinion. I'm not basing it on any attempt to send any messages. A trial court judge, the job of a trial court judge is to apply the law to specific facts and to deal with individual cases. And so, Mr. Chauvin, as to count 1, based on the verdict of the jury, finding you guilty of unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony under Minnesota Statute 609.19 subdivision 2 paren 1, it is the judgment of the court that you now stand convicted of that offense. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute section 609.04, counts 2 and 3 will remain unadjudicated as they are lesser offenses of count 1. As sentence for count 1, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270. That is a 10-year addition to the presumptive sentence of 150 months. This is based on your abuse of a position of trust and authority, and also the particular cruelty shown to George Floyd. You are granted credit for 199 days already served. Pay the mandatory surcharge of $78 to be paid from prison wages. You're prohibited from possessing firearms, ammunition, or explosives for the remainder of your life. Provide a DNA sample as required by law. Register as a predatory offender as required by law. And then you will receive a copy of the order and also the attached memorandum explaining the court's analysis. Anything further from the state?
If this needs to be said, we just ask that it be executed forthwith.
Defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff to be transported back to the DOC or whichever custody he is currently holding.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.